Good morning, boys. So, as I promised you, this is the video for Futility. I'm going to repeat myself a little bit just to remind you, and also just so you can add notes if you didn't add notes. Okay, we're going to start with the title of the poem. It's called Futility, and it was written by a man named Wilfred Owen. Okay, please remember that Wilfred Owen went to war. Okay, so he went to World War One. What he's writing about is based on experience. Okay, so he's not some guy who's got all these beautiful solutions for everything and he's sitting at home, comfortable at home, okay? He actually went to war. He witnessed a lot of horrific things. And funny story, no, actually not a funny story, but he was really, really against the war. But he did fulfill his responsibility to go to war. And the sad thing is that he died a week before the war was over. Okay, this isn't the only war poem that he wrote. The other one that he wrote, actually, I did with the grade 11s. It was called something Latin. Sorry, I don't remember right now. But so this theme of Wilfred Owen writing about war and how horrific war is and how actually terrible it is actually very, very fitting. It's something that he did quite often. I'm going to start us off by reading. So you're going to take out the poem, and I'm going to play for you the reading. I don't know if you can see it. You probably can't, but you're going to be able to hear the sound anyway. So I want you to just follow um, with this man's voice in your own poem, okay? In your own poem that's in front of you. Okay, so that is the reading of the poem. You're more than welcome to go find other readings for yourself. Um, in the like on YouTube. Sorry, I'm half checking if it's still recording. And I think my face has been taken away, but that's okay. All right, so we've spoken a little bit about the title. You know what futility means. And so just something to note again is that this poem talks about the death of a soldier, okay, in the trenches at war. It also uses the death of this soldier to talk about the futility of war and the fact that war is just so pointless, okay? And we're going to see why he says war is pointless in this poem, okay? In this poem, our poet is also going to question the point of life, and he's going to question the point of religion, even. He's going to question a higher power. He's going to question why the higher power does what it does. Okay. Um, there is definitely a tone of frustration in this poem. Okay. Even when you think of the word futility, the meaning of the word is that it's pointless. No matter what I do, no matter what I try, no matter how hard I work, this is a pointless exercise, right? So there's frustration in that because if you try and try and try and try and things don't work out, that's futile and that's frustrating. It makes you frustrated. So there's definitely a tone of frustration in the title of the poem, and actually certainly in the poem as a whole, there is a tone of it's very somber, but it's also very, very frustrated. Okay, let's have a look at. Okay, we've done this slide. Okay, we've spoken a little bit. I spoke to you a little bit about this in class about how like living in the trenches was really, really difficult for these soldiers, and sometimes the trenches was really, really muddy, and also in winter with the snow that the ground actually became really, really hard. And so it was just really, really difficult times to live in. So they it says here they could not crawl up or crawl as they were within range of German guns. Um, and it was just really difficult to live in these trenches. It was really cold, and the ground was really, really cold. And I think that's why it's going to be important to talk about sowing seeds and so on, given that it would get this cold in France. Okay. I've already given you a bit of background about Owen. He remember he's speaking from experience. He's speaking from what he knows, from what he has seen. Okay, he's not just some guy who thinks that he's smart. He lived and died in the war, and as you can see there in the last line, he was killed a week before the war ended. You know that's a really big tragedy for this man who didn't believe that this war was right, and he was killed by it. Okay. Okay, another section that we had started looking at, okay, where they say, so it reads the first three lines: move him into the sun gently. Its touch awoke him once at home, whispering of fields half sown. We spoke about how there is a gentleness in this conversation. There's a desperation, a desperate way to bring the soldier back to life. I was wrong when I said in class, I said that, this person's probably dying. This person has just died. The soldier has just died, so his body is still warm, and they are treating him with a sort of gentleness. And there's a desperate attempt to bring the soldier back to life. And so one way of doing that is moving him into the sun. Please note that the sun is a metaphor, as you can see there in red, that the sun represents life, okay? And not only that, you'll see as we keep reading that the sun is also going to represent some kind of higher power because of the sun, the seeds are able to grow because they're exposed to sunlight. You get some plants that need sunlight in order to grow. So in a way, the poet is suggesting that sunlight is a higher power, is God. Um, and so they're hoping by moving the soldier into the sun that he might get warm again and come back to life. Okay. We're going to see, this is important to note, we're going to see the contrast between the sun, which is warmth, which is life, and the snow, which is cold, which is hard, which is death. Okay. Those two are going to be very, very important main themes. Okay. We see that in the first three lines that the sun is personified because it touches the soldier, right? So there's personification used there. And what happens in the third line, we say that gently its touch awoke him once. There was a time where the sun would wake him up. And it says, at home, whispering of fields half sown. So I think it is fitting what we were saying, where he may have been disillusioned, but now he's dead, right? So what we're saying here is that the sun did used to wake him up when he was at home and he was planting seeds. He would get up and he would go and he would plant seeds. Okay, when we talk about fields of fields half sown, we're talking literally about the fields that have been planted. They've been seeds that have been planted, but those plants have not grown fully. Okay, they've been half sown. And here there's the imagery also of the soldier being young. Remember, the biggest tragedy of war is that young men died, young boys died at this war. And so they were half sown. They hadn't lived their life to the full yet. They hadn't experienced everything yet that they wanted to experience or that they could experience, actually. Okay. There is also a gentleness in the sun here. So it says, move him into the sun gently. Its touch awoke him once. So the sun used to wake this young man up gently. Okay. So the sun here, there's a kindness to to the sun. There's a goodness to the sun. The sun used to be good to the soldier. And so they are appealing to that side of the sun. They are begging that side of the sun. Like, you used to wake him up to go out when he was at home. Won't you wake him up now to bring him back to life? This is what we're begging here. If we look at the next three lines of the first stanza, it says, In the first three stanzas, it says the sun used to wake him up at home, whispering of fields half sown. And then it says, always it woke him. This is the sun. This is what it is. Always it woke him. Let me go to the next slide. It says, always it woke him, right? Even in France. France is where the war was taking place. So that word refers to France, refers to the war, okay? Until this morning and this snow. So now it's referring to the weather conditions in France, okay? So now we're talking about, so these people are begging the sun, please wake the soldier up. You used to wake him up at home, and now you don't want to. Now, here in France, on this morning in this snow, you are not wanting to wake the soldier up, okay? And it says, if anything might rouse him now, the kind old sun will know. I don't know if you've ever begged someone to do something for you. When you beg them, you're kind of nice, and you're like, oh, you're so pretty, and you're so nice to me, and you're so kind to me, and you give this person compliments so that they can give you what you want. And it almost feels like in the first stanza, that is sort of the air. They are begging the sun to wake the soldier up, the same way that the sun used to wake him up back home, but now he won't wake him up. And then it says, if anyone will know how to bring this soldier back to life, it's the sun. That's what they're saying. And here they are referring to the sun in a very kind way, in a very loving way. They say, if anything might rouse him now, the kind old sun will know. So they're referring to the sun as kind and old. Old is a sense of familiarity, sense of love and affection. Like, if anybody will know, you will know. Only you will know how to bring this soldier back. So in the first stanza, there's a sense of, remember we said there's a small sense of hope, like maybe if we move him into the sun, he'll wake up. There's also a small sense of sense of holding on to the last bit of hope, the last bit of maybe if we try this. And also there's a sense of pleading with the sun in a nice way. We are pleading. There's a gentleness also here in the tone, in the tone that is used here, whispering of fields half sown. There is the use of assonance there, how the sun gently its touch awoke. And it says home, half sown. Okay, there's assonance there. There's a repetition of the O sound. Okay, kind old sun. Okay, remember the sun is a metaphor for religion. Okay, and also like that thing of moving to the light, going towards the light. Okay. Um, Also that assonant sound with awoke, home, sown, rouse. These are all long vowel sounds that create a sadness because the soldier's dead, but also creates like a tenderness and a gentleness towards the soldier. Owen wrote another poem, the Latin one that I was talking about, and in that poem, dead bodies just get flung as if there's no care for them. And I think that's because so many soldiers died that eventually you get desensitized to it. But it seems like there's more of a tenderness to this soldier, and there's more of a love to this soldier, and a need to bring this soldier back. So maybe we don't know. Maybe Owen was close um, to this particular soldier. I just want to see something here, boys. Oh, here I am. I've been talking to the wrong slide. Okay. All right. No problem. Okay. So we've moved on. Let's scroll down. Let's scroll down. Let's scroll down. Okay. We've spoken about that slide. You can pause here and take down these notes if you need to, but also just take down my talking. And then also here, this is where I was when I was talking about how the sun always woke him up until now. Okay. Okay. And then now we move on to stanza 2. Now in stanza 2, the tone changes a little bit. Remember in stanza 1, it was very like sort of gentle, it was pleading with the sun. And now it gets to stanza 2, line 8 to 11. Think how it wakes the seed, it says. Think how it wakes the seed, woke once the clay of a gold star, our limbs so dear achieved, our sides full nerves still warm, too hard to stir. So yeah, remember I said in the first stanza, the speaker was like begging, like, please, please, please wake him up. You used to wake him up before, wake him up again now. You will know how to wake him up now, right? In the second stanza, he becomes a little bit more frustrated, a little bit more forceful, a little bit more demanding in the second stanza. And he says, think how it wakes the seeds. Like, think, that word think becomes harder, like the hard T itself. And it's also like a desperate, urgent, like, come on, you can think about it. Come, let's think about it. Let's put together some ideas on how to wake up the soldier. And it says, woke once the clays of cold star. Okay, so clays of cold star, there is alliteration on this k sound, the C sound there. Okay, and remember I told you about the contrast between the sun and the cold snow. So now the cold snow comes in the second one. Okay, and here where we're talking about woke once the clays of a cold star. So clays there is a religious metaphor, a religious reference to how we were made. The Bible says that we were formed from clay, which suggests that we were formed from nothing, right? So here it says that the sun used to wake up the clays of a cold star. So we are the stars of the earth. So we were made by the sun, and we were made to grow by the sun, and plants were made to grow by the sun, right? And now he's saying, if you can do that, says here, our limbs so dear achieved, our sides full nerved, still warm, too hard to stir. So if you can wake up the cold, like clay, think about clay. It's like cement that you put that we are made from clay. This idea that we were molded from scratch. Now the poet is saying, this guy already has limbs. Okay, he already has sides. His body, he's dead, but he's still warm. Remember, you don't get cold immediately. He's still warm, right? So he's saying, if you can make someone from scratch, surely you can resurrect this man who's already made. He's already made. His body is already there. All you have to do is just wake him up. Okay, so there's a frustration there, a desperation to wake the soldier up. The way that we bargain sometimes, and we go, okay, well, like, and be forceful to get what we want, okay, from a situation. Here the poet is talking about that. Okay, um, think how it wakes the seeds. Here we're talking about how the sun is responsible for seeds being able to grow. Like the sun is responsible for seeds being able to grow from the seed to an actual plant. It's able to form a person from scratch. Here is a person that is ready. Like, can't you just create that already? There's notes there for you to refer to. Okay. Stanza 2, line 12 to 14. Okay. All right. Let's have a look here. 12 to 14. Okay. And here, even this use of the rhetorical question, it's a challenge. Like, really? You're struggling to wake up a dead body when you could make a person from scratch, and you could make a seed grow from the ground, from a seed into a plant, and you're going to tell me that you can't wake up a person. So this use of a rhetorical question is a way of challenging this higher power, challenging God. And there's the frustration that comes in. Oh, come on, you can do anything and you can't do this. Okay. Um, was it for this the clay grew tall? The challenge continues. The use of the rhetorical question here again is to challenge. Was it for this the clay grew tall? We are now marrying clay as human beings who are unformed, remember? So think of me, if I'm a piece of clay, I was made, and then I grew up and I became big, then I went to school, I went to university, I went and I got a job, and I lived life, right? So now what he's questioning is, this soldier that has died, remember he's probably young, this soldier that has died, what the poet is questioning is, was he made from scratch and grew tall and grew to the size that he is just so he can die at war. Okay. So remember where we said that there's a frustration and the futility of war? Here it really comes up. Like, how can you make someone from scratch and raise them and they grow up and you keep them safe and at such a young age they die? I think here it also echoes the sadness and the mournful attitude, like the deep sadness and the tragedy when a young person dies. So when a young person dies, it's really, really a huge tragedy. But when an old person dies, we're not so sad about it because we're sad, but we're not as sad because they had a full life and they've had a long life. So you can hear the frustration in the poet's voice here. Okay, so there's the biblical reference that I was talking about. We are but clay molded by God. So why are we allowed to grow so tall only to be senselessly killed? Okay, that's where he's challenging what is this God doing? What are you doing? Like, you're making people and you're raising them only to kill them in such a senseless way. All right, look here. The figures of speech to look at. The rhetorical questions I already mentioned. Too hard to stir? Was it for this that the clay grew tall, to break earth's sleep at all? Again, we are challenging this higher power that we are speaking to. The speaker is challenging them and questioning, are you actually who you say you are? Do you even exist? Right? It's because that third last line says, was it for this the clay grew tall? Oh, what made fatuous sunbeams toil to break earth's sleep at all? So, in other words, what made the silly sunbeam? So now it's even recognizing that maybe the sun isn't even the higher power. Whatever created the sun is the higher power, and it's silly. And he's talking about it's so silly that the sun would raise something only to have it die. Okay. There is the personification that is used for the sun, and the alliteration there, the repetition of clay of cold star. The fields unsown is definitely a metaphor to keep in mind. Right. So the main theme here is life and death. Okay, the main theme of the poem. Remember what I told you about how the sun is life, and the cold and the snow and everything that's hard and dead is symbolic of the death. Okay. I think what's important there to note is that um, this poem allegorizes an unnamed soldier. So to allegorize is to sort of like to write like a eulogy, to commemorate, to celebrate a soldier that is unnamed. We already spoke about this in class, that the soldier's unnamed for a reason, because he represents all soldiers that somebody cared about that died in the trenches and died in this way, and the futility of that death. Okay, I hope this video is really, really helpful, and please text me if you have any questions, and if there's anything that you don't understand. Um, there are questions for you to practice, so I'd like you to go through these questions, and I'm happy to give you answers. Treat it like you're studying, okay? And I'm happy to provide the answers for you for that one, okay? Thank you so much for the awesome year, guys, and I really hope to see some of you next year in my classroom. Have a good day.